Second half, the team came out looking more compact and cohesive. What was the adjustment at halftime that you talked about?
Trying to cool off right now. Some not great language. No. Yeah, I think we needed to remind the guys exactly tactically how we wanted to play. And this is something, look, it's a byproduct sometimes of when you're not always together. You know, Kevin and CJ didn't touch their second team training field this week, and we didn't see them until today. So some of that cohesiveness takes a little bit of time. And when you're trying to build relationships and things like cohesiveness and compactness, it's, you know, it can be difficult when you're not together all the time. But the second half, we just made some adjustments in terms of the way we wanted to support Jameer in the midfield. We made some adjustments in terms of when we have the ball and kind of picking up some better rest defense positions. And look, I think right now you probably see a little frustration in me because the result in itself I could care less about. I hate the way we conceded that goal right after scoring. And for me, you know, continue to preach it because I think I would be incredibly hypocritical if I didn't. Like, I could care less about the results. It's more about these guys and their performances and trying to get them to the next level. Here I am upset after winning a game, but hopefully, you know, my emotion and maybe my tone right now convinces you guys a little bit more that I literally could care less about wins and losses. Just want the guys to be on the same page and to perform well.
What's your thoughts on Mike? Sure. I mean, 3 games in today, he had 3 high saves. Like, talk about his overall performance today.
Yeah, good. I mean, I didn't even turn around on the one because I was so angry the way that they got the breakaway from midfield that I didn't even see that action, so I don't know what happened there. I saw him make the big save in the first half. That was massive, and I saw him make a good one in the second half. Look, he stepped in a really interesting situation, right? You know, I think everybody would have thought Andy Rick would have been playing most of our games, and Andy was called into necessity for Andre, and his timeline sped up quite a bit to be in the first team. And so we were in a position here where Mike was now, in similar ways that Andy was forced into having to play, Mike was too. And Mike has been professional in his everyday. He has certainly made the most of his opportunities. And we had a little rut there for a few games, not anything necessarily on Mike's end as to why we didn't see out those games. But I thought, you know, today he did enough, and that's all we really needed him to do. And I think Mike's such a great role player. He understands what his role is. He's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, he's not the fastest, but he understands what his strengths and his weaknesses are, and because of that, he plays to them. And any goalkeeper or literally anybody on the field who knows what their strengths and weaknesses are and play to their strengths, you know, I can find a place for guys like that anytime.
You look at the goal that you guys scored to tie the game out. Nero plays that long diagonal ball out to Davi, and then Davi crosses into Leandro. Is that more what you want to see with this group, those kind of direct balls that the first team plays all the time?
I thought that the diagonal ball for their shape was going to be one that was going to hurt them a little bit because they were in that kind of 4-3-3 a little bit, and so they were very narrow midfield. So we were able to skip, and we talked about that at halftime too. It was continuing to know that some of those diagonal switches were going to work. If you watch anything you need to, we score a lot of goals like that. It was probably a little bit wider than we typically are for the service to come from, but we score a lot of goals where we're kind of driving in that half channel. We were in the wide channel on that one, and just play these early balls and behind the back line and get a forward to run on and get tap-ins. Eddie Davis has 6 or 7 of those goals this year in the same exact fashion. So I think we're not typically a team that looks to hit those kind of balls, but today it was on. And so it was a good day to skip the midfield in those regards, but we're typically a team that likes to get our midfield on the ball a little bit more.
How difficult is that for you as a coach, where you don't know when guys are going to get called up to the first team, and you know, you're calling guys up from the academy, and you're not knowing who's going to train with you guys? How difficult is that? That's
probably, you know, the difficulty for there is on me, but that's why I think I'm entrusted to kind of deal with it, right? So it changes day to day. It changes literally the mornings off sometimes, but that's the project, and it's very different from the way everybody else handles their project. Our project is for the individual and the development, and utilizing the second team to improve players so that they're ready for the first team. So it's a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways. The better of a job we do in the second team of doing that, that we end up maybe putting ourselves in a little bit of a situation where it's not the easiest to plan for or to deal with. But the project calls for David and Andy and CJ and Kevin and Neil and all these guys to go and be with the first team. And that's where they want to be. That's where that we want to get them. You know, albeit sometimes at the expense of our group from a cohesion standpoint. But, you know, I think we work really, really hard on being organized and trying to be prepared for all the things that change. We were joking the other day how we had a game a couple years ago where Paxton Aronson was in the team, was taken out of the team, and then put back in the team to play for us. And we just have to kind of roll with the punches when things like that happen. So, you know, I think it's probably harder on the kids because maybe they're in a situation where they're kind of getting yo-yoed sometimes, or maybe somebody thinks they're going to get some playing time and then all of a sudden the first team guy drops into the group. But for me, it's just about making sure that we continue to give them an environment where they can thrive in.
CJ has become now the 4th player this season to get a homegrown contract under your leadership with the second team. How proud of you as a coach does that make you, not only for CJ, but the rest of those players?
Yeah, I mean, that's a job. And so, super proud of CJ. And I think his performance has certainly earned it. And I think with the guys that have come in that have done it, they've earned it, you know. It hasn't been given to them. We'll continue to push this next crop and, you know, try to do more. And CJ's led the way, and the idea is that the young guys that are coming through see that, you know. And everyone's journey is not the same. CJ has not had this like rising pathway. There's been ups and peaks, and there's been some valleys along the way too. But he's earned everything he's gotten, and I think honestly, you're talking about a 17-year-old kid. The best is still yet to come from, you know. And all of these guys. Look, we played a young Chicago team, and believe it or not, we were still younger than they were today. And you know, Kevin, CJ, David, you know, Neil Pierre is going to be there eventually. You know, a lot of these guys are going to make it there. And then we've got these young guys who didn't get an opportunity to play today that are going to be the next crop. And so guys like CJ lead the way. I'm incredibly proud of him, and he serves as one heck of a, I don't want to say resource, but and I don't even want to say like, use the wrong word to describe what he is to everybody else, but he's an example. That's probably the best word. He's a great example of how this process can work and work for players to make it to the first team.
Thanks, Marlon.